Chimamanda was a 33-year-old woman, married with 4 children. But none of them belonged to the man she married. 3 of them were fathered by her sister's husband. She had been sleeping with him since she was 26. And for 7 years, Chimamanda had lived a life wrapped in lies and secrets. But once, she had known real love. Chimamanda met Obinna back in high school. He was the quiet boy who transferred from another town, and soon enough they became friends, walking home from school together, sharing snacks and helping each other study. Their friendship slowly grew into love. By the time they got to university, they were inseparable. They sat together in lectures, studied late into the night, and dreamed out loud about the future. After graduation, they got married in a simple but joyful ceremony. Chimamanda had never felt more alive. She got pregnant soon after the wedding. Everything felt perfect. Until everything was taken from her in one night. A robbery. It happened so fast, shouting, banging, men with guns. They stormed into their home, demanding money and phones. But they didn't stop there. They had raped her. Obinna tried to stop them. He fought and screamed only to be shot dead. That moment shattered her. She gave birth to a baby girl a few months later and named her Ifeananya. The child had looked so much like Obinna. Chimamanda loved her deeply, but every time she looked at her daughter, she remembered that night. It was Christmas season, and Ifeananya had just turned 4. The air smelled of festivities, and as always, the family would gather at her parents' house. But Chimamanda didn't want to go. She never did. Every visit reminded her of one person. Ngozi. The beautiful, sweet, and perfect sister. Their parents had always favored Ngozi, and they never even tried to hide it. They spoiled her with toys, treats, and attention. She always got the best portions of food, the biggest hugs, and anything she asked for. Chimamanda, on the other hand, had to earn everything. She worked hard for good grades, did all the chores, those were her offerings, her quiet way of asking to be seen. But somehow, it was never enough. And she never really spoke about how it made her feel. Eventually, she began to carry something dark, something bitter and twisted. Jealousy. It took root early and grew over the years, hidden behind practiced smiles and polite laughter. And now, even as adults, nothing had changed. Ngozi still had everything. A loving husband. A beautiful home. A perfect life. Chimamanda never said it out loud. But in her heart, she wanted what Ngozi had. Christmas was just 3 days away, and the house buzzed with the familiar chaos of food, noise, and family. Chimamanda was drained. She had been scrubbing floors, washing dishes, and helping her mother prepare for the celebration. Her body ached. Meanwhile, Ngozi floated through it all like a guest of honor. She was gently guided to sit, handed plates already served, offered food before she could ask. But no one told Chimamanda to rest. No one asked if she was tired. By the time she finished bathing Ifeananya and laying her down to sleep, Chimamanda felt like she would collapse. She barely changed into her nightwear before crawling into bed. Her eyes closed the moment her head touched the pillow. That's when the dream began. She was in someone's arms. It felt warm, steady, and familiar. It was Obinna, her husband. He touched her the way he used to, with care and hunger. She felt safe and wanted. But then, something changed. His voice still spoke her name, but it sounded different. His hands still felt the same, but the touch was no longer familiar. She looked up. And it wasn't Obinna anymore. It was Chinedu. Chimamanda gasped and woke with a start, sitting straight up in bed. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Her skin was hot. Ifeananya was laying beside her, fast asleep. It was only a dream. But it felt real. And she couldn't lie to herself. She had liked it. Chimamanda walked into the kitchen, barefoot. It was past midnight and the house was quiet. She just needed water. As she stepped inside, she stopped. Chinedu was standing by the sink, drinking from a bottle. Shirtless. His back was to her. He turned slowly when he heard her footsteps. Chimamanda, he said, surprised. You scared me. I couldn't sleep, she whispered. I came for water. He nodded, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. It's been a long day. She nodded too but didn't move. Her eyes followed the lines of his chest, the shape of his arms, the way his skin looked under the light. And now, standing here, she knew why she had dreamed of him. From the first time he came to their house with Ngozi, she had noticed him. He was kind, handsome and strong. But Ngozi got him. And now Chimamanda wanted him. She stepped closer, slowly. "You're a good man," she said, her voice low. Chinedu blinked. "Where is this coming from?" "I watch you," she said, moving even closer. "The way you treat Ngozi. The way you help out." "Chimamanda," he started, but his voice caught when her fingers touched his chest. She was standing right in front of him now, close enough to feel his breath. "Do you want to know something crazy?" she said, her voice low, almost teasing. "I just had a very steamy dream about you. And I liked it, a lot. Now I can't stop wondering, what would it feel like in real life?" She leaned in and kissed him. For a second, he froze. When they finally broke apart, Chinedu was breathing hard. "This is wrong," he said, his voice shaking. "I know," she whispered. "But I don't care." And then she walked away with a small smile. Christmas came and went. To anyone looking, it was a perfect family Christmas. But inside Chimamanda, something had changed. The kiss with Chinedu had done more than cross a line, it had awakened something hot. Something reckless. She couldn't stop thinking about it. Chinedu didn't stay away. They didn't talk about what happened, but it kept happening. Small touches in the hallway. Lingering glances at dinner. And when the house went quiet, when others slept, they found each other. Again and again. After Christmas, everyone returned to their homes. She and Chinedu began meeting in secret. Sometimes in hotels, in quiet places where no one knew them. Sometimes in the back seat of his car in an empty parking lot. It was wrong. But Chimamanda didn't care. For the first time in her life, she had something that belonged to Ngozi. Something her perfect sister couldn't control or protect. Chinedu might go home to her every night, but it was Chimamanda he touched in the dark. It was her name he whispered. Her body he craved. She felt satisfaction. The 2 lines on the test stared back at her. Bold. Unforgiving. Pregnant. She sat frozen on the edge of her bed. Her fingers shook. Her lips were dry. For a moment, the room felt too quiet. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She had been careful, at least she thought she was. But now it was real. And it was Chinedu's baby. She texted him immediately. "We need to talk. Urgent." They met in a hidden corner of a bar, late in the evening. He arrived first, looking nervous, his leg bouncing under the table. When she walked in, he stood up. "Chimamanda," he said, voice tight. "What's going on?" She sat down slowly, her eyes on him. She didn't drag it out. "I'm pregnant." His body stiffened. His face paled. "You're what?" "I'm pregnant," she repeated. He gripped the table edge. No, this can't be happening." "Jesus. Mandy, this is bad. This is really bad. I can't have this baby," he muttered. "We can't. Not like this." "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice low. "There are ways. You know, clinics. You don't have to keep it." Chimamanda's jaw clenched. "You want me to get rid of my baby?" He looked at her, desperate. "Mandy, think about this. What happens if Ngozi finds out? What happens to my marriage? My life? And what about mine?" she snapped. "I already have a child. Who says I want another?" She leaned in closer, her voice turning softer, more dangerous. "Or maybe you could leave her. We could make this work. You and me." Chinedu's eyes widened. "No, that's not possible." "Why not?" she asked, almost smiling. "You love me, don't you?" "I do," he said quietly. "You know I do. But love isn't enough. I can't destroy everything. Not like this." Her face twisted, but she stayed calm. "So I'm just what? A secret? Something to throw away when it gets hard?" "No," he said quickly. "You're more than that. You know you are. I've never felt this way before. I never wanted to fall for you. But I did." "I'm keeping this baby," Chimamanda said. He swallowed hard. Then what do we do? She looked down, thinking. Then slowly, an idea took shape. She raised her eyes to him. There's someone, she said. Who? Emeka. A friend. He's always had feelings for me. He's good, kind, and clueless. If I tell him the baby is his. Mandy. I won't tell him now. I'll ease into it. Start seeing him. Make it look real. Then I'll say I'm pregnant. He'll believe it. He'll be happy. Chinedu was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. If this is how we survive it. She reached across the table and took his hand. It's our only way. A few days passed before Chimamanda finally reached out to Emeka. She knew she had to do it right. Emeka had always been kind to her. They had known each other since university. He was the friend who always checked on her, who offered help without asking for anything in return. Over the years, he had asked her out a few times, but she always turned him down. But Emeka never stopped caring. His feelings stayed the same. So when she called and asked to meet, he didn't hesitate. When Emeka saw her walk in, his whole face lit up. Mandy, he said, standing up to hug her. You look beautiful. She smiled a little. It's good to see you. They talked over drinks. About work. About life. About Ifeanyi. He asked about her daughter with genuine care, the way he always did. And then slowly, Chimamanda began to steer the conversation. I've been thinking a lot lately, she said softly, tracing her finger around the rim of her glass. About what? He asked, leaning in. She looked up at him, then reached across the table to touch his hand. I've been thinking about you. His eyes widened slightly, surprise flashing across his face. Maybe, she continued, her voice quiet but steady, we could give it a try. You and me. You mean be together? He asked, his voice careful, almost afraid to believe it. Yes, she said. I want to be your girlfriend. For a moment, Emeka just stared, like he was waiting to wake up from a dream. Then his face broke into a wide smile. He reached for her hand and held it tightly. You just made me the happiest man alive, he said. That night, they went back to his place. Chimamanda was the one who stepped close first. She placed her hand on his chest. Do you still want me? She asked, looking up at him. Emeka swallowed hard. I've always wanted you. Then show me, she whispered. She leaned in and kissed him. She took his hand and led him gently to his bedroom. Her hands moved with purpose. Her lips didn't hesitate. She wanted this. She needed it to happen. And Emeka followed, caught in the moment, full of quiet joy. He held her like she mattered. He kissed her like she belonged to him. Chimamanda smiled, but deep inside, she felt nothing. She wasn't thinking of Emeka. She was thinking of Chinedu. Weeks later, Chimamanda and Emeka had fallen into a rhythm. They spoke almost every day, short calls in the morning, texts in the afternoon, longer talks at night. He made her laugh. He sent flowers to her office. He asked about Ifeanyi, about how she was doing, about her dreams. And Chimamanda played along. It was on a quiet Saturday evening that she finally decided to tell him. When Emeka opened the door, he lit up like always. Mandy. You didn't say you were coming over. She smiled faintly and stepped inside. Sit, he said. Let me get you something. She sat on the couch while he brought her a glass of juice. I have something to tell you, she said. He looked at her, curious. What's wrong? She held his gaze for a moment. Then she said it, softly. I'm pregnant. His eyes widened. The glass almost slipped from his hand. For a second, Emeka didn't speak. He just blinked at her, unsure if he heard right. He stared at her, mouth slightly open. You're serious? She nodded slowly. He let out a shaky breath and smiled. I can't believe this. Mandy. I'm going to be a father. She nodded again. He laughed, a deep surprised laugh, and pulled her into a hug. This is the best news I've ever gotten, he whispered. I've loved you for so long. I never thought. I didn't know this would ever happen. She let him hold her. Later that night, as they sat together on the couch, he gently touched her stomach. Maybe we should get married, she said softly. For the baby. He looked at her like she was gold. I want that, he said. I want you, Mandy. All of you. Let's do it. She smiled, sweetly knowing her plan was going according to how she wanted it to. Chimamanda and Emeka got married in a quiet ceremony 3 months after she told him she was pregnant. Emeka looked at her like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. He took care of her. Treated Ifeanyi like his own. When the baby came, a boy named Somtachukwu, he cried tears of joy. Everyone said the child looked like Emeka, and he believed it. Why wouldn't he? But Chimamanda knew the truth. The boy was Chinedu's. Just like the next child, and the one after that. 3 children. All from her sister's husband, and Emeka loved them deeply, never doubting. Chimamanda told herself she had one. She had everything her sister had, a home, children and a husband. Ngozi couldn't have children. Year after year, she and Chinedu tried but nothing worked. She watched her sister break down and comforted her with fake sympathy. Then go home and whisper into Chinedu's ears, "She can't give you what I can." Sometimes he'd agree. Sometimes he'd cry. In all of this, he always went back to Chimamanda. In secret. In sin. In shame. But then, everything changed. Ngozi finally got pregnant. It was like thunder in Chimamanda's world. She couldn't believe it. Chinedu was overjoyed, and she could feel him slipping away. He stopped calling. Stopped meeting her. Stopped replying to her messages. And one day, he said it clearly. "It's over, Mandy. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to be a father, with my wife. I want to fix my home." Chimamanda laughed at first. Thought he was joking. But when he blocked her number and changed his routines, the truth hit her. She had lost him. Her world cracked. She had built everything around him. Her lies. Her marriage. Her children. Her heart. Now, it was falling apart. And Chimamanda couldn't take it. It was Mama's 60th birthday. The compound had been bustling all week as relatives poured in from different states. The celebration had been loud, colorful, and emotional. But now, the festivities were over. The relatives had all departed earlier that afternoon, leaving behind only the immediate family. Everyone was resting after dinner, still tired from the long day. Chimamanda slipped away from the house and walked to the back, where Chinedu often went to make calls or get some air. She found him there, leaning against the wall, looking at his phone. When he looked up and saw her, he straightened slightly. "Mandy, what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you," she said softly. Chinedu glanced around. "You shouldn't be here." Her eyes locked on his. "You haven't glanced my way since we got here," she said. Her voice was low. Bitter. "You act like I'm invisible." "I'm trying to keep the peace," he said quickly. "You know this is hard enough." "For who?" she asked, stepping closer. "You? Or for your precious Ngozi?" "Mandy, stop," he said, his eyes darting around. She didn't stop. "You said you loved me. You fathered my children. You promised we'd always have something." "Keep your voice down, and that was before," he said sharply. "Before Ngozi got pregnant. Before I decided to fix my marriage." Chimamanda's eyes filled. "So that's it? You just leave me?" He said. "I'm doing the right thing." She reached out and touched his arm. "One more time," she whispered. "Let me feel you. Please. Like before." "No," he said, pulling his arm away. "This has to stop." Her face changed. The sadness turned to rage. "Stop," she whispered. "After everything we shared? After everything I gave you?" She raised her voice now, emotion taking over. "What do you want me to do, Chinedu?" she said louder. "Pretend you're not the father of my kids? Pretend we didn't spend years wrapped around each other while your wife was too busy crying over empty wombs?" From the corner of the house, a voice shattered the air. "What did you just say?" Chimamanda's heart dropped. Emeka stood there, his face pale, eyes wide with disbelief. He had come outside looking for his wife, wondering why she hadn't returned to the room. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop. But now, everything was broken. "Emeka," Chimamanda breathed. I didn't mean." "You didn't mean," he said, voice shaking. I just heard you say Chinedu is the father of our children. He looked from her to Chinedu. Tell me it's not true. Please. Neither of them spoke. He stared at her like she was a stranger. You told me I was their father, he said, his voice hollow. You let me name them, love them, raise them. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. But you did, he said. You looked me in the eye every day and lied. I gave you everything. I loved you, and this whole time, you were his. Tears ran down her cheeks. I didn't plan for it to happen this way. But you let it, Emeka said. Over and over. He stepped back. I'm done, Mandy. I've been the fool for too long, now I'm walking away. Chimamanda reached out to him, but he turned and walked away, without even looking back. It was morning. Chimamanda sat quietly at the breakfast table, stirring her tea in small circles. Her plate was full, untouched. Around her, the family chatted softly, Mama, Papa, the children. Ngozi smiled faintly as she passed slices of yam to the younger ones. Everyone was there. Except Emeka. Where's Emeka? Papa asked after a while, frowning slightly. Is he still sleeping? Chimamanda said nothing. Her eyes were fixed on her tea, her fingers tight around the handle of the cup. Mandy. Papa tried again. Still, she said nothing. Mandy, Mama said gently, you've not said a word this morning. Is everything all right? Chimamanda raised her head slowly. I'm fine, she said quietly. The table fell silent. Everyone waited. Then Ngozi spoke. Maybe he just needed space, she said in that soft, composed way she always had. You know men, sometimes they get overwhelmed. Especially with family gatherings. Don't speak like you know anything about what's going on, Chimamanda said, voice sharp. Ngozi blinked. I was just. No. You always just talk. With your calm voice and your sweet face, like you're better than everyone. Like your life is perfect. Mandy, Mama warned. Then Ngozi's voice rang out sweetly, annoying Chimamanda even more. Sister, if something is wrong, you can tell us. You always act like you're carrying the world alone. That did it. Chimamanda slammed her cup down. You want to know what's wrong, she said, her voice loud, sharp. You all want to know where Emeka is? Mandy, their mother warned, lower your voice. But Chimamanda was just getting started. Maybe you should ask Ngozi, she spat. Ask her why the man she sleeps beside every night is the father of my children. Dead silence. A spoon dropped to the floor. Ngozi blinked. What are you talking about? You heard me, Chimamanda snapped. Her eyes blazed. Your perfect husband, your kind, gentle Chinedu, has been mine for years. Every time you cried to God for a child, he was giving them to me. And as for Emeka, he was just a cover. He loved me, but I used him. I used him to hide what I really wanted. What I had. Mama stood up. Mandy, stop it. No, she shouted. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of pretending. I gave birth to 3 of your husband's children. And I don't feel sorry. Ngozi's mouth fell open. She looked at Chinedu. Is she lying? Chinedu didn't speak. Mama began to cry softly, pressing her hand against her chest. Jesus. Jesus. Papa stood slowly, his face pale, like he'd just watched his entire family crack apart in front of him. What kind of evil is this? Ngozi finally spoke, her voice cracking. He was mine. You knew he was mine. Chimamanda looked her dead in the eyes. And I took him anyway. Why? Ngozi whispered. Why would you hate me that much? Chimamanda laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. Because everyone loves you. Because you always have what I didn't. Because when you walk into a room, people look at you, and forgot I'm even there. She stood up slowly, her voice rising again. So I took something, I took him. And guess what? He wanted me back. Again and again. I didn't steal him, he gave himself to me. Ngozi stared at her in disbelief, tears streaming down her face. You are my sister. I was, Chimamanda said coldly. Not anymore. The silence that followed was heavy. Ngozi sat frozen, tears spilling down her cheeks. Chinedu couldn't meet her eyes. Mama clutched her chest, swaying slightly, and Papa just stared at Chimamanda like he didn't recognize her. Without a word, Ngozi stood up. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. She looked at Chinedu one last time. Then she walked out. "Mama, go after her," Papa said, but Mama didn't move. She was crying now, weeping into her wrapper. "I ruined everything," Mama whispered. "My girls, what did I do wrong?" Chinedu tried to speak, but no words came. Papa buried his face in his hands. "And Chimamanda?" Chimamanda finally sat down. But there was no tea to stir now. Just the cold realization sitting in her chest. Her children cried in the background. Confused. Frightened. She had destroyed everything. Her sister's marriage. Her own home. Her parents' peace. And still, all she could think was, "I had him. For a while, I had him. And now I have nothing."